Look, the Cowboys, they have plenty of drama going on right now. It all started on Friday when Micah Parsons formally requested a trade from the team, but of course it didn't end there. Did you see even Des Bryant got pulled into this conversation? Jerry Jones saying, well, I talked to his agents or I wasn't able to. And Des was like, look, bro, don't bring me into this. But over the weekend, Jerry Jones continuing to be peppered with questions about Micah Parsons.
I think the world of Micah, and that's just part of negotiation.
Would you ever consider trading Micah?
Again, I don't really place that with any real seriousness. Micah's got a bad back. That's like being traded.
Did the request take you by surprise?
Y'all weigh it the same.
Did the request take you by surprise?
Again, no, that's negotiation. I've heard that so many times in my 30 years in the NFL about from not just players but agents, and of course we all understand contracts. We're under contract. That's what we're doing. We're looking at adjusting the contract, but we're under contract and we're in camp, and that's the way the rules are set up. But that is old stuff, 30 years of old stuff. Some of these issues we're hearing about trading, hurt backs, all that kind of stuff.
30 years since Cowboys made it to the Super Bowl. Let's welcome in Leger Douzable, Mike Ritter, Jerry Jones, the king of saying so much and yet nothing at all. Leger, on Friday, we talked to both of you guys when this was going down, Micah Parsons requesting a trade. And, you hear Jerry saying, oh, it's kind of part of negotiations. Micah Parsons has said, look, we have not heard diddly squat from Jerry Jones and his camp when it comes to negotiations. Leger, as of this Monday, where do you stand on the situation?
This is ridiculous at this point. Now, I will agree with what Jerry Jones said. This is part of negotiations. We just look to what Myles Garrett went through last year. He made a public proclamation. I want out of Cleveland. But you know what changed his mind, Amanda? $40 million. And that'll change Micah Parsons' mind, too, if he were to get somewhere upwards to $42+ million in regards to annual salary per year. But it's like Jerry just hasn't learned his lesson, because you did this with Dak Prescott. You drugged your feet. It ultimately cost you more. You did the same thing with CeeDee Lamb, and it ultimately cost you more. And it cost CeeDee Lamb all of training camp, which had a ripple effect because he started the season slow. Like, the one thing you don't want Micah Parsons to do is not have any practice in training camp and then just go out there in week one and be ready. Now, most veterans, we need 2 solid weeks of training camp in regards to being ready for the season. And you see the highest paid non-quarterbacks, TJ Watt, Jamar Chase up there, $40+ million, Myles Garrett as well. And Micah Parsons is probably going to surpass all these guys. So I don't understand the thinking of the Cowboys brass and front office. Why not get this deal done? You had a year ago to get it done. You didn't do it then. Now you're dragging your feet. Now it's going to cost you upwards to $42 to $45 million to get Micah Parsons signed.
Yeah, I'm right there with Leger in thinking that this makes no sense, but that's also why I think it's likely, the most likely of any of the people that have requested a trade this offseason, that this one actually gets granted, because it didn't make sense that after 3 years of what Micah Parsons did, that they did negotiate with him last year. The price would have been way lower. The price went up with all those $40 million deals signed this past year. If they negotiated last year, it would have been a year after Nick Bosa signed his at $34 million a year. They could have got him maybe $37, $38 million a year. And it would have been cheaper than what they're having to pay right now, which would be in the $42 million a year range. So just given how the price continues to go up with each passing day, and where the Cowboys cap situation is, and who Micah Parsons is, and the fact that he's not just going to take a little bit less for that hometown discount, or even relent on any language that might make it more likely for him to get cut in the future, he's not going to do that. He's going to want guarantees. And because of all that, I'm not sure the Cowboys are in the spot in terms of their cap situation to do all that.
Mike, I was listening to Pushing the Pile on the way into work, and you guys were, because Leger, to your point, where all of us were wondering, like, why does Jerry Jones do this time and time again? Mike, are we getting played? Like, is this just to stay? I mean, we're talking about it. Here we are, first thing in the show, like with all these contracts and just having them move on and on and on down the line. Are we all getting played by Jerry Jones?
I floated out the conspiracy theory on the show that this is for the content, that Jerry Jones is actually pushing out these contract details because he knows then he dominates, which he is right now. We're talking about it. He dominates the airwaves. If he holds out until next season, until next spring, and they franchise tag him, guess what? We're going to be talking about it all next spring about what are they doing? Only franchise tag Micah Parsons, the way we did one with Dak Prescott's contract, the way we did CeeDee Lamb's contract. So maybe he has a galaxy brain move here, but it's not the way you win championships. It's the way you get headlines.
Yeah, Jerry Jones knows exactly how to play to the media. I brought this up a few weeks ago, Mike. It was a pleasant surprise, Amanda and Mike, that we weren't talking about the Cowboys for once in the offseason. Like, they had been moving in silence. Dak Prescott looked more lean than he ever looked before. A lot of energy, bravado going around the Cowboys brass. And because of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Commanders, nobody was talking about him. Well, Jerry Jones said, enough is enough. I'm taking a blowtorch day one of training camp. I'm going to alienate my best player on the team. I'm going to throw a shot at my best corner and my starting right tackle. Just so everybody could talk about it. So Jerry just doesn't do anything without thinking. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows that everybody's going to be talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And yes, it ultimately will cost him more, but the longer he drags his feet with Micah Parsons, people are going to talk about the Cowboys, which, to Amanda's point, here on a Monday, that's what we're doing.
I can't decide if it's like middle or youngest child energy coming from Jerry Jones right now. Let's move on. We're going to take a look around the NFC East. Let's go to the Commanders. Another trade request coming from wide receiver Terry McLaurin. It is a much different tone there, though. Dan Quinn saying, look, we're emotional about this. It is business. He also had an update. Terry McLaurin on the PUP list dealing with an ankle injury. Here's more from Dan Quinn.
Not a timetable. I think you'll see the on-field work, and then we'll progress from there. So once you get a good bit of on-field work, really hard routes, decelling, stopping, that's the hardest part. Not, straightaway speed, but mostly for receivers, that decel, that's the comeback, that's the in-breaking route. And so that's most of it for wideouts and for DB. So when that hits the spot, then I'm expecting then that to turn quickly.
Okay, all that good news. Would like to see Terry McLaurin off the PUP list, but still we are dealing with a trade request. Mike, where do you stand on this Monday with him?
I think the Commanders are just going to call us bluff and say, hey, you're under contract here. I know it's the last year of your deal, but we are now a better run organization than the Dan Snyder years. We're going to go about our business the way that well-run organizations do, which is to say, we're not going to give a monster deal to a wide receiver who's about to turn 30. They know the history. They know that the landscape of the NFL, and in recent years, guys like Nuke Hopkins, who was 31 when he had his last 1,000-yard season, Julio Jones was 30, AJ Green was 29, Amari Cooper was 29, Cooper Kupp was 28. The wide receiver age curve is getting younger and younger in terms of effectiveness, with the game being more speed-based. So this was the same age Devontae Adams was when the Packers traded him away and said, we're fine moving on and getting younger. I think that's ultimately where the Commanders want to go. But now for this season, you obviously want him there. So they want him for this year. And then after this year, they say, hey, you've been a franchise legend, but we're just not going to pony up that kind of money.
Well, I would be rare if I'm the Washington Commanders, because it's not just what you get for Terry McLaurin on the field, and you know this, Mike, it's the intangibles off the field. Like, Terry McLaurin has been the one constant of things to praise when it comes to the Commanders until Jaden Daniels got there. Let's not forget, 5 straight seasons with over 1,000 yards, and you go back to his rookie year, Mike, over 900 yards. He played with 8 different quarterbacks. What receivers in the league are putting up that type of production with that much influx at the quarterback position? I go back to his rookie year when I believe they won the division with a losing record. That's when it was called the NFC lease. And right before the bye, Terry McLaurin speaks to the team and he says, guys, remember this feeling. Let's continue to have this feeling. They were just coming off a win. He said, but make sure you handle your business during the bye. Work your body out, get your mind and your body ready to go on this stretch run. And this wasn't a first-round pick. This wasn't a second-round pick. This was a third-round rookie speaking in front of the whole team. And Ron Rivera was just so surprised that he was like, go ahead and break it down. Well, just to talk about the intangibles, the very next week, as a rookie third-round pick, they made Terry McLaurin a captain. That lets you know how beloved he is in that locker room. We also talked about Jaden Daniels, right? You don't think he wants to continue that synergy with Terry McLaurin? We just saw the list right there. He was second in the NFL in receiving touchdowns behind only Jamar Chase. Again, 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons with inept quarterback play, played with 8 different quarterbacks. So if I'm the Commanders, I would try to figure it out. I hear what you're saying, Mike. He is turning 30. But if you also look at DK Metcalf, same draft class. He got over $30 million, and they're very comparable. Yes, DK is 2 years younger than him, but they played the same amount of years in the NFL.
Yeah, and to your point, look, Jaden Daniels might be the leader on the field, but he is still only entering his second season. You need that veteran presence there. Let's go to the Giants training camp as we continue to hop around the NFC East. Head coach Brian Daboll is entering on a warm to very hot seat. I'll let you guys talk about that. Interesting decision, though, that he kind of has to make. Look, signed Russell Wilson on the one-year deal. In comes rookie Jackson Dart, and apparently has been lighting it up at camp. Lige, Brian Daboll taking a look at his quarterbacks. How careful does he need to be about his decisions moving forward?
And that's the biggest question mark for me is like, when are we going to see Jackson Dart? I know Russell Wilson is starting and he looks good right now throughout training camp, but Jackson Dart is the future. And you heard their owner come out, John Maurer, at the end of the year and say, I better be in a better mood than I am right now this time next year. And to me, that's going to be tied with that young man on the screen right there, Jackson Dart, because he is the future of the franchise. Say Russell does start the season off and they have a gauntlet of a schedule to start and they go 1-4, but Jackson Dart comes in and they play adequate football and maybe they go 500 down the stretch. That could potentially save Brian Daboll's job. And you see it right there. First year, turned things around really quick. 9-7-1, went to the playoffs, won in the wild card, went to the divisional round. But you see it the last 2 years, man, the 9-15, that's not going to cut it in the NFL. So to me, Jackson Dart is tied with Brian Daboll and potentially saving his job. I'll be interested to see when he actually takes over as the starting quarterback for the New York Giants.
When, not if, from Lige Duzable. By the way, Giants-Bills Saturday afternoon in their preseason game. All right, finally, we got the Eagles. There's all this drama at the other ones. I don't know if you guys saw it on social media. The Eagles are doing grounding exercises at training camp. They're in their bare feet in the grass. They're like dancing around. New OC Kevin Patula after Kellen Moore, left to be the head coach in New Orleans. Here's more from him on how things are going at training camp.
We're doing a lot. We're putting the guys in a lot of stressful situations. We're challenging them a lot with formations and different things we're doing in concepts. So they've got to handle a lot each day. So, ultimately, the more we practice, the more that stuff will come down. But we've really pushed them to try to challenge their mental game and the physical side and putting it together on the field. And we're moving guys around a lot. So when you do that, that stuff can happen. The more we go, the more it'll come down, as we know. The more, once the whole offense we feel like is in a good spot, it'll shrink. So in practice, that stuff will all kind of calm down as we go.
Taking a look at the coaching position here, Mike, I mean, they promoted from within, so he is familiar with the situation. The last time they did that, though, Brian Johnson, that did not work out well. Kevin Patula is also going to be call playing, which is a new position for him as well. What do you think we get from him in this Eagles offense?
Yeah, that's the biggest question mark, right? Because I go back to 2023 when they were coming off Super Bowl appearance, and you had some infighting in that team. You had issues at guard, at that right guard position that's up for grabs now. And then it just kind of fell apart down the stretch. And I think a lot of people forget that. Like, there was a time during last season, because obviously the Super Bowl cured all ills, but there was a time when there was some infighting in that team too. A.J. Brown was upset. Jalen Hurts was not producing down the stretch there at times, so you run the risk of that. But I just think the bevy of talent they have, this is an offensive coordinator's dream, right? Like there's no shortage of talent on this roster, whether it's a top 5 offensive line, top 5 receiving group, top 5 running back. It is all there. That just, you're a kid in a candy store for Kevin Patula, that if you want to get creative at all, and it sounds like he is going to formationally in a way that Kellen Moore just flat out really didn't a year ago, I think it's going to work out pretty well.
But that's where you got to be smart too, Mike, right? Because playmaking, it's all about rhythm and understanding the strength of your team. And I think Kellen Moore, people tend to forget, like you said, because they won the Super Bowl. They started off the season 2-2, and they were struggling on offense, trying to figure out what their identity is. And then they figured it was the offensive line and Saquon Barkley. And then from there on, they took off on that offense. So if you're Kevin Patula, don't need to reinvent the wheel. We saw, to Amanda's point, Brian Johnson got the promotion. It didn't work out when he did it. So if you're Kevin Patula, this is your first time calling plays. Lean on that offensive line. Lean on Saquon Barkley. Throw some of your own wrinkles in, but don't reinvent the wheel. That was an explosive offense for a reason last year. Just keep doing what they're great at.
And hopefully Nick Sirianni, he did say, what was like a couple weeks ago, he said the key to our success is doing ordinary but better, which is what they have been doing. That's why they won the Super Bowl. Guys, we appreciate it. So preseason games getting underway. Taking a look at the games in the NFC East. Eagles and Bengals, that is Thursday. So your first one, Friday, Saturday, and then Saturday again. Look, you can read it on the screen. I don't need to go through all these. But you know what? I was pleasantly surprised by the Hall of Fame game.
You watched it?
So freaking into it. Yes.
What, did you have a bet placed
No,
on the game?
I was just so excited to see football again.
I mean, it is football.
I may be watching these preseason games.
Back on CBS Sports HQ Spotlight, it has been over 20 years since we've had repeat champions in the NFC East. The Eagles are favored to do it this season at -140, the defending division champs, the defending NFC champs, the defending Super Bowl champs. Commanders +220, Cowboys +550, and the Giants kind of a long shot. Emery Hunt and Mike McClure are here, and we are going to look at stage of elimination bets. We're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys. They have not made it past the divisional round, fellas, in 3 decades now. It's been 30 years. They're expected to miss the playoffs. So if you think they're going to make it, it's great value, Emery. What do you say?
Yeah, I think they're going to make it, Chris. And when you think about the Cowboys team, I like to call them the NFC's version of the Cincinnati Bengals. We know they can score the football. Can they stop anyone from scoring? That is a big question in Big D this year, especially against the run. They're banged up in the secondary right now as they're working some guys back from injury. But offensively speaking, when you bring in a George Pickens to an already stellar receiving core with CeeDee Lamb and Devontae Turpin and Tolbert and what they have at Ferguson in tight end position, they can really push the pace on offense and put a lot of strain on opposing defenses. They're going to need their offense to control the tempo and control the pace of the game, because you don't want to put that defense on the field that has issues in stopping the run. So we'll see how it plays out, and if they get Micah Parsons signs, that's an even better sign for their defense moving forward. But right now, I have them losing in the divisional round because of the NFC being such a stacked conference at the top.
You know, Emery, I love the comparison to the Bengals in the AFC. I ultimately missed the playoffs, though, here. I think it's another year of a missed playoff. And my concern is exactly what you laid out. And we know what they can do offensively. They typically have these abilities to, have good fantasy players, for instance, like CeeDee Lamb. They'll put up points offensively because their defense puts them in a position where they simply have to. I don't think that they're going to be good enough defensively here, and I think it just simply puts a lot of pressure on that offense to be too perfect at the right times. I ultimately have them missing the playoffs. Don't love laying the -230, but I do think it is an appropriate price point in the NFC, because I think the Eagles do have such a stronghold on this division, and they still have a number of difficult games. I mean, talk about the first week of the season against the Eagles. They play the Packers there in prime time. You still have to play the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's not sleep on the Chargers as well out of the AFC West. I just think it's a difficult uphill battle in this division for them. So I have them missing the playoffs here.
That is a month from today. They are opening up in Philadelphia against the Eagles. Mentioned that it's been over 20 years since we've had a repeat champion in this division. But it's been over a decade since we've seen an NFC team make back-to-back Super Bowls. The last team to do that, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson's Seattle Seahawks in the year 13 and 14. And when you look at the odds, Mike, shorter odds for this team to win the Super Bowl than to lose it.
Yeah, it stands out. Look, they're an elite team. They are a deserving, Super Bowl favorite or co-favorite, but I ultimately had them losing in the Super Bowl at +900 because of that price point. I think if they were both, say, +800, +850, I would still lean on the side of a Super Bowl winner. But the fact is, at +900, not knowing who's going to be there, knowing that the AFC has a number of tough competitors, whether it be the Kansas City Chiefs, the Baltimore Ravens, the Buffalo Bills, or really any of those other teams that could emerge. So I like the Eagles in the division. I think they absolutely roll through the NFC East. I think the schedule is favorable for them to just simply get in the playoffs. And if you're getting this team in the playoffs and you get a healthy Saquon Barkley, you get a healthy defensive unit, I think they're headed back to a very, very deep run. But for me, Chris, it was literally just the price point here, +900. I will take them to lose in the Super Bowl.
I got the script already. I'll tell you in the Super Bowl. It's going to be Eagles and Ravens. So the Ravens going to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl. That's why I like that price point at plus 900. The reason why I like them get back to the Super Bowl, guys, is because they do roster construction and roster building the right way. They treat it like a college football program. They always draft for a year ahead. So when we're watching the Eagles dominate in the trenches on both sides of the ball, we're watching them dominate at wide receiver in the secondary. They've already drafted guys that, hey, maybe this contract is up. Maybe we can move off of this guy. And people say, wow, they lost all of these players. But then come the other season, you're like, wow, so-and-so stepped up. This guy stepped up. That guy stepped up. That's just great roster building. And it starts in the NFL draft where we're always saying, man, how does Howie Roseman do it again? How does he keep getting away with this? And because he understands how to develop talent, how to cultivate talent, it makes the job for these coaches a lot easier. So when you project forward, this team will always have someone ready to go, chomping at the bit to get on the field. It creates that constant competition, which is why they're so hard to beat in critical situations of the football game. So I like them to get through the gauntlet of the NFC. But like I said earlier, my predictive skill set, playing the Ravens in the Super Bowl, they lose that game.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Super Bowl logo because we can always tell who's going to play by the colors in that. There is purple, and there is a little bit of green, but there's a lot of other colors too. There's like yellow and pink and all that.
Ravens?
But, Ravens are the purple. There is some blue here. There is some blue for the New York Giants, but come on, let's be honest here. This is more about like which week they'll be eliminated than a stage of elimination play because they are minus 1,000, Emery, to miss the playoffs.
That's foul, man. Like, they making you play the. Of course, I'm gonna lay the 1,000 for them to miss the playoffs. Like, guys, I don't know if you know this, but I've been at Giants camp since minicamp, OTAs. I just got a training camp this morning. That's why my melanin is popping. Been out there in that sun all doggone day. But here's the thing about the Giants. They'll be much better than people give them credit for. This is a football team that can win 8 or 9 games. Don't look at the schedule. Don't say the schedule is tough because we all know it's a week-to-week league. Where the Giants are better this year along both sides of the line of scrimmage. And the reason why offensively you're not hearing a lot about the offensive line is because Russell Wilson is a floor raiser, so that lets the offense be competent. Malik Neighbors may be in store this year for an 1,800 season because he's been catching everything at camp. The one weak spot I see is in the secondary in terms depth at corner. They'll be great at the safety spot. Abdul Carter looks like a pick for Rookie of the Year on the defense side of football. The offense will be complementary. The defense will be able to get off the field. So when you look at this team holistically, they're in a better spot. You won't see Jackson Dart until 2026. Brian Daboll has done a fantastic job of working his plan of developing Dart, and I think that's going to show itself next year. But this year, they'll be competitive.
I'm right there with you. I missed the playoffs minus 1,000. Emery, you mentioned it was a week-to-week league, and I absolutely agree with that. The stage of elimination here, we should be talking about which week will you no longer even be able to bet them to miss the playoffs. When will that number be off the board? For me, I think it might be by week 8 here. They have a very difficult schedule. Week 14 is when they catch that bye, and they'll be far out of contention at that particular point. While I do like some of the moves they made, and while I do think guys like Neighbors will put up very nice years in fantasy, particularly a few weeks of the season in daily fantasy over on FanDuel. However, this team just not close this year. They're building for the future. They are not making the playoffs. I would lay the minus 1,000 here.
They are the third biggest long shot to make the playoffs in the NFL, around 8-1 to get in. One more team here, and so far Mike only has one team in this division making the postseason. We finish with a team that some people are real high on, some people are low on, and Mike, I've already, as Emery has seen the key to the Super Bowl this season, I've already seen your play. Why do you think the Commanders are going to miss the playoffs around even money?
Yeah, I just think the Eagles have such a stronghold on the division, and I think the Commanders have a sneaky, difficult schedule. And I want to talk about what they did last season. Look, Jaden Daniels is phenomenal. I love watching him play football. However, I think we can all admit a few of the ways they won games last year, slightly improbable and unlikely to happen again. I just think that they have a tough road. I mean, you see, like the game against the Bears on Monday Night Football, for example, the Packers on Thursday Night Football, the Chiefs on Monday Night Football, just all of these primetime games. Another one against the Cowboys on Christmas Day. Just look at the Eagles at the last part of the season here. To me, this is a 9-win team. Their win total sits at 9.5. I went under on that. I think this division ultimately is a runaway for the Eagles and ultimately gives this division just one team in the playoffs. Give me the Commanders to miss at plus 105.
I have them losing in the divisional round. I think when you look at the South and the West, you may only get one team, so that opens the door for a third team out the East, and I think that team will be Washington, thanks in part to their quarterback. I think that's the reason why they get to the playoffs, but ultimately succumb to divisional loss.
Interesting. So Emory has 3 of the 4 teams